um, the spectaculars. It says a scornful description of the Roman theaters as citadels of obscenity, and of the amphitheaters as the acme of man's inhumanity to man. And he concluded with a bitter threat. He says, other spectacles will come. All right, marvels will come. And that last eternal day of judgment, when all this old world and its generations shall be consumed in one fire. How vast the spectacle will be on that day. How I shall marvel, laugh, and rejoice and exult, seeing so many kings and supposedly received into heaven, groaning in the depths of darkness, and the magistrates who prosecuted the name of Yeshua or Yahushua melting in fierce flames. Then they ever kindled lit against the Christians or the Israelite and sages and philosophers, blushing before their disciples as they blazed together. And tragic actors now more than ever, vocal in their own tragedy, and players lither of lamb by far in the fire, and charioteers burning red on the will of flame. All right. So let's continue. Revelation 18:20 to 24. All right. Says, rejoice over her, O heaven, and you saints and apostles and prophets, because the Most High has pronounced judgment for you against her. Then a strong angel took up a stone, like a great millstone, and threw it into the sea, saying, so will Babylon, the great city, be thrown down with violence. Oh yes, lots of violence, and will not be found any longer. And the sound of harps and musicians and flute players and trumpeters will not be heard in you any longer. And no craftsman of any craft will be found in you any longer. And the sound of a mill will not be heard in you any longer. Babylon. And the light of a lamp will not shine. That means it's going to go dark in you any longer. And the voice of the bridegroom and bride will not be heard in you any longer. For your merchants, your businessmen, were the great men of the earth. And because all the nations, the people, were deceived, or tricked, lied, fooled by your sorcery, television, technology, and so forth, witchcraft. And in her was found the blood of prophets. Right? The blood of prophets, what are those? And of saints, what are they? Right? The aborted fetuses, Planned Parenthood, the abortion clinics, all the women that were having babies, they were having prophets, queens and kings, prophets and prophetess, right? And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints, Israelites, and of all who have been killed on the earth. All that have been killed on the earth. Let me find this history. Give me one moment. Give me a moment. All right. So, a couple little defenders of the faith, right? So, let's do Ignatius, Bishop of Antioch, Um, let's see. Um, let's see. Ignatius, Bishop of Antioch, condemned to be thrown to the beast for a refusal to abjure his faith. Justin, in 108, Justin composed on his way to Rome several letters whose hot devotion reveals the spirit in which it says Christians, Israelites, could go to their death. It says, I give injunctions to all men that I am dying willingly for the Most High's sake. If you do not hinder it, if you don't stop it, I beseech you, I ask you, be not an unseasonable kindness to me. Allow or suffer me to be eaten by the beast through whom I can obtain, that means receive, the Most High. Rather entice the wild beasts that they may become my tomb and leave no trace of my body, that when I fall asleep I be not burdensome to any. I long for the beasts that are prepared for me. Let there come upon me fire and cross, crucifixion, struggles with wild beasts, cutting and tearing asunder in half, raking of bones, mingling of limbs, crushing of my whole body, and cruel tortures of the devil. If so, I may receive to Yeshua Christ, to Jesus Christ. This is what Ignatius was saying, all right, before he was destroyed, all right. Let me get some more, all right. It's a lot more, okay. Just bear with me, all right. Okay, so all right. Tertullian notes the general hatred felt for us. From the time of Nero, Roman law seems to have branded the profession of Christianity, right, as capital offense. Christianity, being an Israelite as a capital offense, believing in Christ, all right. But under most of the emperors, this ordinance was enforced with deliberate negligence. If accused, a Christian or Israelite could usually free himself by offering incense to a statue of the emperor. Thereafter, he was apparently allowed to resume the quiet practice of his faith. Akon. It says Christians who refused, or Israelites who refused this obedience might be imprisoned or flogged or exiled or condemned to the mines or rarely put to death. Dementia seems to have banished some Christians or Israelites from Rome, but being in some degree human, says Tertullian, he soon stopped what he had begun and restored the exiles. All right. Pliny enforced the law with the officiousness of an amateur, if we may judge from his letter to Trajan. The method I have observed toward those who have been denounced to me as Christians or Israelites is this: I interrogated them whether they were Christians. If they confessed it, I repeated the question twice, again adding the threat of capital punishment. If they still preserved, I ordered them to be executed. The temples, the churches which had been almost deserted, began now to be frequented, and there is a general demand for sacrificial animals, which for some time past have met with but few purchasers. So they weren't keeping the laws on purchasing the animals. Uh, this is Trajan's reply. It says, the method you have pursued, my dear Pliny, in sifting the cases of those denounced to you as Christians is immediately proper. No search should be made for these people. When they are denounced and found guilty, they must be punished. But where the accused party denies that he is a Christian or Israelite and gives proof by adoring our God's powers, he shall be pardoned, forgiven. Information without the accuser's name subscribed must not be omitted in evidence against anyone. All right. It says the passage here, italicized, suggests that Trajan only reluctantly carried out a pre-existing statute. Nevertheless, we hear of two prominent martyrs in Principate: Simeon, head of the Church of Jerusalem, and Ignatius, bishop of Antioch. Presumably, there were others of less fame. All right. Hadrian, a skeptic open to all ideas, instructed his appointees to give the Christians or Israelites the benefit of every doubt. Being more religious, Antonius, this is how they are, Antonius allowed more persecution at Smyrna. The populace demanded of the Asiarch Philip that he enforce the law. He complied by having 11 Christians executed in the amphitheater, 155. The bloodthirst of the crowd was aroused rather than assuaged. It clamored for the death of Bishop Polycarp, a saintly patriarch of 86 years, who was said in his youth to have known St. John, which he did. Roman soldiers found the old man in a suburban retreat and brought him unresisting before the Asiarch at the games. Philip pressed him. Take the oath, revile Christ, Yeshua, and I will let you go. Polycarp says, the most ancient of the acts of the martyrs replied, for 86 years have I been his servant, his worker. All right. And he has done me no wrong. How then can I blaspheme my king who saved me? Praise the Most High. Who's your king? It's supposed to be Christ, Yeshua, Yahweh, Jesus Christ. Whatever you call Christ, okay, he's supposed to be your king. All right. It says, the crowd cried out that he should be burned alive. Burn him alive. That's what they said. The flame says the pious document refused to burn him. But he was within them as bread. He was in the fire as bread, that is, being baked. And we perceive such a fragrant smell as might come from incense or other costly spices. At length, the lawless men demanded an executioner to stab him. When he did this, there came out a dove, and so much blood that the fire was quenched, and all the crowd marveled, wondered, or was shocked. The persecutions were renewed under the saintly Aurelius. When famine, flood, pestilence, and war overwhelmed a once happy rule. All right. The conviction spread that these evils were due to neglect and denial of the Roman gods' powers. So when we're not doing their celebrations and all this stuff, their gods don't have no power, and they don't have no power anyway. All right. But that's what they're looking for, us to give them worship and praise. Don't give your worship and praise on these unholy days. Serve the Most High, the living power. Now we finna get into more things, all right? Lord. It says the annual festival, celebrating these stupid unholy days, these hot helly days, the annual festival, the feast, the party, remember, the religious gathering of the Augustilia was now to be celebrated in lions, and delegates from all Gaul crowded the provincial capital at the height of the games, and accused Christians and Israelites were brought to the amphitheater and were questioned. They're like an investigation, right? Those who recanted, they were dismissed. They said, "Oh, we'll serve your gods," and they were just dismissed. They were the coons. 47 persisted. They kept on and were put to death. Praise the Most High. With a variety and a variety and barbarity of tortures, equaled only by the Inquisition. All right. Attalus, second to Pontanus in the Christian community, was forced to sit on a chair of red hot iron and roast to death. Look at these wicked Romans. Blandina, a slave girl, was tortured Israel all day, then bound up in a bag and thrown into the arena to be gored to death by a bull. Her silent fortitude led many Christians or Israelites to believe that Christ, Yeshua, made his martyrs insensitive to pain. The same result might have come from ecstasy and fear. The Christian or Israelite said Tertullian, even when condemned to die, they gave thanks. All right, they gave thanks. All right. Under Commodus, the persecutions waned. Septimius Severus renewed them, even to the point of making baptism a crime. In 203, many Christians suffered martyrdom in Carthage. One of them, a young mother named pt2, left a touching account of her days in prison and her father's prostrate pleas, his beggings. He's pleading and begging that she should renounce, it says, Christianity, right? Her faith. She and another young mother were tossed and gored by a bull. We have an indication of the anesthetic effect of fear and trance in her later query. When are we to be tossed? She asked. The story tells how she guided to her throat the dagger of the reluctant gladiator who had to kill her. All right. The Syrian empress who followed Septimius had little concern for the Roman gods and gave Christianity a careless toleration. Under Alexander Severus, peace seemed established among all the revival faiths. All right. Let's see what else that I can bring out. Eusebius assures us, presumably with the hyperbole of indignation, that men were flogged till the flesh hung from their bones, or their flesh was scraped to the bone with shells. Salt or vinegar was poured upon the wounds. Lord, the flesh was cut off bite by bit, and fed to waiting animals, or bound to crosses. Men were eaten piecemeal by starved beasts. Some victims had their fingers pierced with sharp reeds under their nails. Some had their eyes gouged out. Some were suspended by a hand or a foot. Some had molten lead poured down their throats, Father. Some were beheaded or crucified or beaten to death with clubs. Some were torn apart by being tied to the momentary bent branches of trees. All right. Yeah, they was doing all kind of things to our people. But he who leads into captivity must go into captivity. Him that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. All right. And they will be. Let me get more. All right. Let me get a little bit more. All right. Man. They was doing us just wrong out there, man. They're doing us wrong out there, dude. I'm gonna try to get it, find it. Just give me a minute. Give me a minute. Lord. Let's see if I can get it. Man. I think it's 360. Let's see. Yeah, I got me something right here. Let's get back to it. Let's read the slave real quick, all right? It says, the slave had no legal rights whatever. Indeed, Roman law hesitated to apply the term persona to him and compromised by calling him an impersonable man. It is only by a considerate error that Gaius discusses him under the law of persons. Logically, the slave came under rubric or property. He could not own or inherit or bequeath. He could not make a legal marriage. His children were classed as illegitimate, and the children of slave women were classed as slaves, even if the father was free. Slaves, male or female, might be seduced by their master without legal redress. The slave could not bring action in the courts against those who injured him. He could proceed in such a case only through his owner. The latter, under the law of the Republic, could beat him, imprison him, condemn him to fight beasts in the arena, expose him to die of starvation, or kill him without cause or with no other control than a public opinion formed by slave owners. If a slave ran away and was caught, he could be branded or crucified. And Augustus boasted, this guy, he laughed that he had recaptured 30,000 runaway slaves and had crucified all who had not been claimed. If under these or other provocations a slave killed his master, law required that all the slaves of the murdered man should be put to death. F them and they lost. All right. They were killing our people, Israel. These wicked devils. I don't even know if I want to go into all of what I got. These devils, man. They were just killing damn wicked people. Okay. That's it on that. I'm not going to be looking around. Let's get back to the scriptures, right? So, 2 Chronicles 24:21. So they conspired against him, and at the command of the king, they stoned him to death in the court of the house of the Most High. Mark 6:27. Immediately the king sent an executioner and commanded him to bring back his head. And he went and had him beheaded in the prison. Luke 11:51. From the blood of Abel to the blood of Zechariah, who was killed between the altar and the house of the Most High. Yes, I tell you, it'll be charged against this generation. Acts 7:58. When they had driven him out of the city, they began stoning him. Who was him? Stephen. And the witness laid aside their robes at the feet of a young man named Saul. meaning Paul. Acts 12:2. And he had James, the brother of John, put to death with a sword. Hebrews 11:37. They were stoned, they were sawn in two, they were tempted, they were put to death, Israel, with the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, that means troubled, and ill-treated. Our people. When the Lamb broke, Revelation 6:9. When the Lamb broke the fifth seal, I saw underneath the altar the souls of those who had been slain, that means killed, because of the word. Who is the word? Yeshua, Christ, the word of the Most High. Because of the word of God, and because of the testimony which they had maintained. You must maintain your testimony, and you must be faithful unto death, Israel. All right? All right? We can't fear what man will do to us, right? You know, if you have faith, no weapon will prosper against you. Let me get some stuff in here. Ecclesiasticus, all right? Seems like I'm always going to it. But I love what it says there. I mean, it's just the truth. Ecclesiastes chapter 2. Ecclesiasticus, wisdom of Sirach. It says, my son, if you come to serve the Most High, prepare thy soul for temptation. All right? You got to be ready. Don't take the vaccine. All right? Ye that fear the Lord, wait for his mercy, and go not aside if you fall. All right? Ye that fear the Most High, believe him, and your reward shall not fail. All right? 12. Woe be to fearful hearts, fearful spirits, minds, emotions, and faint hands, weak hands, and the sinner that go two ways. You can't go two ways. James says you can't be doubting. You can't be tossed to and fro. You got to believe. And he will do it. It says, woe unto him that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not, therefore will he not be defended. You won't be protected if you believe not. All right? Okay? And it says, woe unto you that have lost patience. Be patient. And he says, and what will you do when the Most High shall visit you? Because he's going to come and visit you. All right? He's going to try your works. They that fear the Most High will not disobey his word. And who is his word? It's Christ. And they that love him will keep his ways, his commandments, his law. They that fear the Lord will seek that which is well-pleasing to him. And they that love him will be filled with the law. Filled with the law. Get yourself filled with the law. For gold is tried in the fire, an acceptable man in the furnace of adversity. We read some acceptable men. They went through adversity, baby. And you're going to. All right? You're going to go through this adversity, which you're going to be tried, but you're going to come out pure as gold. You're going to come out pure as gold. Whatsoever is brought upon you, take cheerfully and be patient when you are changed to a low position or a low estate. All right? Constantly endure. In a time of trouble, don't run. Hold on to the Most High. Seek the Most High more and more. All right. Let me get a little bit of something else because let's see. Wisdom of Solomon. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon real quick. And it says in Wisdom of Solomon 3, it says, but the souls of the righteous, see, Polycarp, Ignatius, the apostles, everyone, right, that are righteous, it says, are in the hand of the Most High, and there shall no torment touch them, those slaves that were murdered. In the sight of the unwise they seem to die, and their departure is taken for misery, and are going from us to be utter destruction, but they are in peace. For though they be punished in the eyes of men, still is their hope full of immortality, and having been a little disciplined, they will be greatly rewarded, for the Most High proved them and found them valuable for himself. As gold in the furnace have he tried them, and received them as a burnt offering. All right. Understand? But see, they're finna try us. They're gonna try us. It's not really them, but you know, we finna be tested, y'all. Why? I'm gonna cut to the chase. It says, he professes to have the knowledge of the Most High, and he calleth himself the child of the Most High. He called himself an Israelite. All right? Where others are imposters, and they're calling themselves that. Right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, because we are his children, and we proclaiming it. Some say it'll be a little bit of boasting, but it's not. He's setting the record straight, and the Most High wanted us to. Revelations 2:9, it says, I know your works, Israel, and tribulations and poverty, but thou art rich, Israel, the Israelites, right? All 12 of them, all 144,000 of them, all right? The blacks, Hispanics, and Native American. It says, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, they are Israelites, and are not,